We are now in what I call the now, the novel ostentatious war. And because we are in the now, which is not just the psychological and spiritual war, but also the fairly unsophisticated and yet highly adaptive environment where anybody can really thrive, but depending on what exactly you make yourself to be is going to determine how you can thrive. You know, if you want to just sacrifice your soul, if you want to just make sure that you don't really have anything soulful or wholesome in your life, man, you can get a lot of dough really quickly in this world. But it seems like the more real you are, in some sense, the more difficult it is to really build anything that is worth building. And I just don't take this world seriously anymore. It's not because I'm apathetic toward the world, even though there are moments where I am feeling apathetic towards the world and the people in it. And today was one of those days. It's not just because it was a cloudy day. I actually like this kind of weather. It was raining earlier, which is a bit unusual for this time of year. Usually we'll get snow, but it was still really solid and still a very, very good day, even though there was a lot of apathy in the morning and temptations. I was really just getting to the point to where I was praying for God to have a shield around my heart of faith, and there was a point where the chink in the armor was there. And because I'd just been dealing with day in and day out spiritual attacks every single day for the last week and a half, and day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, it finally just got to me today, to be honest. It was really just getting to me. And I was ready, because this woman was basically throwing herself at me this morning at the gym. And I was this close to being like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go for it. I don't even really care anymore. This path is super hard. And man, I've been doing this for so long that it incrementally gets more difficult the more you're down that path. But it also, I have to realize that and remember, there are so much more people and so many more people that have it much more difficult than I do. And the fact that my biggest problems in my life are growing my businesses and growing in general, as well as having women throw themselves at me, you know what? Like, that's really not that bad. And so I got out of my own head and I realized, you know what, like, things could be a lot worse. Like, these are my problems. My problems, yeah, you know what? Growing a business is war. And being an entrepreneur, for any entrepreneurs out there, it is severely, day in, day out, is a war. I mean, some days you'll be as high as a kite. Man, you'll be living life and loving it, never wanting to do anything different. And then some days, like today for me, it's like, man, sometimes you just want to go back to that 9 to 5, because at least you'll have security, quote unquote. At least you'll have security. At least you'll have some sense of stability, because man, being an entrepreneur, it's not for everybody. Absolutely not. It's absolutely not for everybody. And the kind of work that I do with the Regal Change Academy, as well as one-on-one consultations and fitness consultations as well, it's not a simple thing. And sometimes the things that happen in those, I don't even understand until it happens on the other side. And the reason for that is because, well, we're actually trying to build growth here. We're actually trying to do something about it. And that's why the devil's going to attack so much more harder and much more vigorously and much more furiously. The proclivity that the devil has to try to set you up while you're moving in a good way is exponentially high. And now that I think about it, I think one of the biggest things that, like, the reason that I cannot take this world seriously, and I don't take this world seriously, it's because I have to remember that also this is just here for a temporary thing. Okay, this is just this life that we live. It's just, we're in and out like the fast food restaurant, man. We are not here forever, and thank God for that. But sometimes it can feel like we're here for a long time, and it can feel like we're in this hellish state of mind. And that's where I think that a lot of people that I've talked to in consultations and such, they've talked to me about how they just feel stuck, or they just feel like there's this perpetual degree of orienting themselves toward a specific thing, and they can't seem to learn what they're supposed to learn from this. And to them, that's hell. And I would agree that that kind of state of mind where you feel stuck, that is hell. That is absolutely hell. And when you're in the middle of something, when you're in the middle of working through something, that's going to be when the devil's going to strike the most sometimes. It's not going to be when you begin. It's not going to be when you're at the finish line, because really there is no finish line in this life. The only finish line is death. And even then, if you're spiritual and you follow Christ, you know that that's not really the end or the finish line. We just know that we're not here for that long. We just know that this is going to be temporary, and we don't need to be attached to what's actually happening. Most of what's going on around you, most people are just illusions. Most people are NPCs. They're just there to fulfill what the system wants it to fulfill, and that's it. Like that's anybody seen The Matrix? It hit pretty close to home for many people, because most people are NPCs. Most people don't know how to create their own life. And I'm not saying that you need to be an entrepreneur in order to create your own life, but what I am saying is that in order to increase the everlasting probability of your own fulfillment, you must be creative. You must be creative. You must have this form of creativity that is embedded into your being and into your spirit, because if not, this is something that you just simply cannot get past. This is going to be a hurdle that you just cannot get through, and that's okay. For people that don't want to get through obstacles, but and again, I'm not saying that you need to be an entrepreneur to do this, but you must have the creative faculties to do this. This is one of the reasons why I tell everybody that the 3 things that I think anybody should do every single day, no matter who you are, is something creative, something physical, and something intellectual. And as well as meditate. Everybody needs to meditate as well. This is something that you must not strive away from, because here what we want to do is to strive for and not to eradicate. How do I say this? We don't want to eradicate striving. That's what it is. And by incorporating these things to your being every single day, you will never eradicate striving. You can't. Like when you are operating in these modes of being, of doing something creative, doing something intellectual, doing something physical, even if it's just, 20 push-ups and sit-ups or something. Because on days like this, when I'm feeling a bit apathetic, honestly, I can go a little bit more hard at the gym. And the reason for that is because the pain tolerance goes up. That's one thing as well. When I get into this, I don't necessarily say it's nihilistic or depressive. It's just kind of like, all right, Jesus, I'm ready to go. I'm not suicidal, but man, I'm kind of ready to go, Jesus. I'm ready to go. Why am I, what am I here for? And of course I know that, but you kind of have to ask the question sometimes because, well, that's part of being a human. And we have to remember that the battleground for the human soul is going to be the human heart. And this is one of the reasons why the Bible says not to trust your heart and not to lean on your own understanding, but to lean on God's. Sometimes we're not going to understand why certain things are going through us or happening to us or happening around us. We don't understand why these things are happening. But what we can do is accept what's going on and control what we can control and do what we can do. If we can do what we can in these kinds of times, so for example, like me today, what can I do? Well, I can make sure that I go really hard at the gym. I did a lot of miles on the treadmill this morning, and afterward, I did calisthenics. I did back day and bicep day. I stretched. I did an ab workout, and I went to the sauna. I did a lot of different things that incorporated the whole experience and to really, cement myself back to myself. Because there's going to be days like you're not going to be great all the time. You're not going to be fantastic all the time. But guess what? Most of the time when you're in these kinds of states, I guarantee you I'm still in more high spirits now than most people are going to be ever in their life. And that's because even though there are days like today, I am still so grateful for the Most High God. I'm still so grateful for Him revealing the truth to me and Him saving me. I'm so grateful for these things. It's not to say that these kinds of thoughts can't penetrate your mind once in a while, but they're not as impactful as they would be. Like when these things started to happen, got a hold on it pretty quickly. And you're not going to have your top 10% days 100% of the time. How could you expect that, right? And if you think about this from a reasonable perspective, in a month there are 30 days. You're going to have your top 10% days and your bottom 10% days. Together, that's almost a week worth of your days in the month that are probably like 5 or 6 roughly, maybe 6.2 or something like that. 6.2 of your days are going to be your highest of the high and the lowest of the low each month. That means everything else in between, it's going to kind of meander in the normal quote unquote range, whatever that means to you. But we just have to remember what the real strategy is for this long term. We have to remember that we're only going to be here for a little time, and we don't need to get too attached to all of these things that are happening around us because it is only temporary. We don't necessarily need to worry about all of these different things because who are we to worry? You know, if you can ask yourself that, who am I to really worry? Things get a lot easier. Even on days where you feel like you don't understand what's happening and why it's happening. If you can calmly, coolly, collectedly look inside yourself and see what the real problem is, because sometimes the real problem isn't even the problem that you have before you. Sometimes the problem is that you are not looking at the thing that you ought to be looking at and you know it. That's the problem. Or the problem is you don't want to accept the problem. Maybe that's the problem. So you've got to know what's going on in your own life. You've got to make sure that whatever's happening in your life, trust that it is for your growth. Trust that it is for your benefit. All right? So with all that being said, I do hope this message was useful and insightful for you. I've really enjoyed this weather. Man, it feels nice out. It's not like super cold, but it's cold enough to still be winter, you know? And there's a little bit of people outside, like as far as the driving and cars go, but for the most part, it's pretty chill and relaxed, and that's what I like. I like when things are not too busy and things are relaxed and calm, and especially going out into nature like this. I mean, I'm not even too far from my place, but this is a trail here. You can see the trail. It goes all the way down and into the mountains there. And I don't walk it the whole way all the time, but I'll walk it sometimes, and it's nice to just be next to the trees. And there's a river down here, and yeah, it's just a very nice place to be, and I enjoy this place. This is an enchanting place. I love this, these mountains and everything. Just being grateful for the things around you is going to be a great antidote for any kind of suffering that you know isn't going to last anyway. Maybe that's another thing to think about as well, is like, is your suffering even suffering? You know, everybody suffers, of course, but is it misguided suffering? Is it unnecessary suffering? And if so, are you looking for suffering? Because that could be something that many people go through as well. But I do hope this video was useful and insightful, as I mentioned before. If you do want to join the Regal Change Academy, where we have the free Discord as well as the paid community, the free Discord right now, we have meditation guides, fitness guides, as well as the new ebook that I wrote that came out. Just a short little ebook to give you guys some more perspective on life, death, relationships, and family. And that is free if you join the Regal Change Academy Discord channel. We also have it in the paid community, but I wanted to be able to make it free but still exclusive to the Regal Change Academy community. And so then we have that there. In the paid community right now, we just finished up the Art of War class series today. We're going to be going over another class series here in a few weeks. We've got a couple weeks out before I'll be announcing the next one that we'll be doing. But in the meantime, you'll have other classes to work on your own time. For example, the entrepreneurship workshop, or AI optimization, fitness, the Godlike Savage workshop. We also have weekly Bible study calls, as well as a weekly Regal assembly call. We're going to be adding another class or two that's going to be a part of the calls that we do, and a part of the full membership there as well. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. But that community is really awesome. You know, we're building a spiritual army there that is full of godlike savage men that are competent, intellectual, and understanding. And then we have the women that are warm, inviting, feminine, and empathetic. So I'm really excited to see that play out and to build there. And I also want to thank and appreciate everybody moving from the YouTube platform over to X, Rumble, and Instagram recently. I do appreciate your guys' extra support. And with all that being said, peace be with you all. Till next time.